Committee to order. And I have present my fellow members of the committee, Fred Chase and Mary McGrath, and the town manager, Blythe.
Yes.
Ashley, I'm not sure your last name,
Iris.
and Laurie Green.
Yep.
There we go. And we have Counselor Ellenberg here, but she's here as a citizen, right? Okay, because she's not on the committee. So first order of business would be to approve the minutes from the last meeting, except I don't see them here.
There are none right now, Mark. I'll have them on the
Okay,
next
so
one.
we'll do that at the next meeting. Okay, thank you. I would ask if there's any public comment. We have one member of the public here. I don't know if we have anyone on Zoom, Deb.
The Zoom's just for recording.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Did you want to say?
I have no comments.
Okay. There's a second comment period later. Okay, so we'll go right into the agenda. Legislation referred. First one is order 0 FY 25-013. It's a transfer order salary to expense. And I would defer to the town manager.
And I will answer as best I can and further defer to the finance director.
Okay,
So we are looking for transfers from two salary accounts, town manager and animal control, to two expense accounts, one for town manager professional services and one for animal control professional services. The first one is to transfer monies left from after the town manager departed into expense to pay for the acting town manager services for the next few months. And the other one is the town, after, I guess, a number of situations where an actual employee covering animal control services wasn't working out for various reasons. The town made a decision earlier this year to hire a firm to provide that service. And so we need to move the money from salary to expense.
okay.
I defer to Lori if she has any things to add that I might miss.
No, thank you. But no, she's got it covered pretty much. So the movement of the salary from the animal control will cover the cost of the contract hired. And again, the money from the town manager's salary will cover some costs and professional services out of that salary. So it's just moving it from
Pretty clear cut.
salary to expenditures.
Do any of my
I have a
fellow members
question.
have questions? Go ahead, Mel.
So you said, so now we don't have any employees? Because
We do not. I think we use somebody occasionally part-time on like a night or a weekend for some coverage, but very rarely, only on an exception
Okay.
basis.
But the company is Precision Wildlife. All of the information on the website goes directly to their phone.
Where are they located?
I think,
It's a nearby town and they do this for several towns.
Okay,
So
all right.
it just seemed to be a better way to make sure that the service for residents was reliable. It wasn't always so, is my understanding. So
Okay.
Because it's a
Thank you.
24/7
it
thing.
is,
Correct.
you know, you
Because
don't know
you
what,
don't know when an animal's gonna get hit by a car or something's gonna come up.
right?
And it also probably saves on benefits
It
as well.
does.
It does, good point.
So
Yep. that's,
cost savings. Fred?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering if you or anyone can alert us as to whether there were any particular concerns raised by the Finance Committee. I'm assuming the Finance Committee of the town has already spoken about this
they
matter.
haven't met yet.
They have not met yet.
No, they
Okay.
plan on, so this
It's
won't
next
be
week.
ready
It's
for
next
tonight.
week.
So, yeah, this won't be for our meeting.
Yeah, so
tonight.
they're
Okay,
meeting next week, so.
thank you very much.
I decided to meet tonight in case we had other things referred to us that we would have to look at next week.
That's fine. Yep.
So, any other questions? No? Okay, could I get a motion to approve or recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Okay.
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 6-0, okay. Moving right along, we will go to item B's, order 0 FY 25-014, contractual payments. Go to
I will
Blythe.
start with this, but I know Lori knows the detail
Yep.
far better than I do. So we have an employee liability fund where we put funds from each year for payouts for, say, a contractual obligation, a union contract, or a contract with an employee that needs to be funded. And so this would move $164,641 to three different salary accounts, one for police, one for fire and general government. And I know Lori could give you much more detail about exactly why we're doing each of those, what's come up that those need to be funded.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So these are typically employee liability payments that are contractual. One of them is a union. The first one is the union collective bargaining agreement of a retired police officer. The second is a payment, a pretty personal contract for the fire chief, that when he was negotiating to be fire chief, he stepped out of the union and had a liability that was of greater means, that the agreement was made to pay him out at a lesser amount to get the liability off the books.
That he would be making as chief.
And he would
Okay.
make him as chief, because as a chief, he is not a member of the union and doesn't have those union benefits anymore.
Right.
And the same situation is for the personal contract of the CIO, that's the Chief Information Officer, who was previously the computer systems
IT director.
IT director, and he stepped out of the USW union with the contract, and this was an agreement to take care of his union owed liability, to get that off the books. So this is coming off the books, and as you may or may not know, new employees are given this benefit of a contractual buyout. So the liabilities are going further and further down, which is a good thing. So
It's typical when you, in many communities, when you have somebody who's in a union and you want to promote them to a department head position, they're giving up some of those benefits that they had. And so it's typical to make that payment, especially in the front end when it's less expensive than it would be when they've been here longer and their salary continues to go up. So Lori's point is we're spending money to save the town money in the long run, that we won't pay those at a higher rate later on.
Questions?
No.
No questions? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to recommend.
Motion to
A second. Okay. All in favor?
recommend.
Aye. Okay. That's one, that one's done. That off. Go to C, which is order 0 FY 25-015, transfer order, public education government, PEG for town council chambers.
So we ordered a new encoder, which enabled us to better stream our meetings than we had going to Facebook and to YouTube. So that's a piece of equipment that needed to be, I'm not sure if we were replacing it or it was a new piece.
yeah,
But regardless, it was time to upgrade what we were doing to be able to better have public access to our meetings. And I think there were other small charges, small expenses that went with it, but that was the lion's share of the amount that we needed.
Equipment does not last long. It's like computer equipment. You have it, they used to depreciate it on a 7-year schedule. It's a 5, it might as well only be 3, but BTV does a great job
They do.
with everything that they do and anything we can do to enhance
It was their
Their-
recommendation,
their coverage,
actually.
to enhance our coverage. That's a good thing.
Yes, so.
Questions?
Nope.
No questions?
I think the appropriation is a good idea.
So I'll entertain a motion to recommend.
Motion to recommend.
I'll second.
Okay.
To give a question from the
Oh,
audience.
question.
A question from the audience, just how much is the amount of money for the new equipment?
well, they asked for 20,000. I believe the equipment is less than that, but they want to replace your mics, and there's a couple other incidentals that.
So the whole package is around 20,000?
Yep.
So, yeah, to upgrade everything right now would be about that.
So
And that's coming from the PEG fund, which is,
the franchise fee that they pay
Yeah.
to the town.
yeah,
Okay.
so.
which is 50 cents per subscriber
Oh.
and whatever.
And I don't know what the experience is here, my experience in other places is people cut the cable
Yeah,
and just stream internet to get their Hulu or whatever it is they're
Right.
buying. Those fees are going down.
Yeah.
And so,
These agreements.
the ability to provide that, in future for communities is gonna
The
be hard.
public
Right.
access. yeah.
right,
And there's about $70,000 in this particular fund.
good. And it's used for cable-related purposes.
absolutely.
Which is even better, because where I was, they used it for all sorts of other things. I'm
No.
glad it's not that way here. So there was a motion and a second.
Mhm.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Okay, 3-0. Okay. Lastly, there would be order 0 FY 25-016, acceptance of gift, Bridgewater State University. And, go ahead.
So that is the $55,000 that was mentioned at last week's meeting. That, we've received that each year for the past,
I went back to 10 years and we received about almost 600,000 from them in the last 10 years. For just the earmark for public safety, police, fire and highway. That's their way of,
and as you know, they're not obligated to do this at all because it's state-owned land. But
Right.
Lori reminded me that we also receive a payment from the state for payment in lieu of taxes for state-owned land, and that's about, what, 800,000 a year?
yeah, so fiscal 25, it'll be about almost 800,000. That's the estimate.
Is that for all?
All state-owned land.
All
So-
All
state-owned land?
state-owned land.
Okay.
Prison.
Which
Yeah.
they are.
fire services and the university.
Yes.
Yep, all those things.
All the state owned parkland, everything. So the state has their formula that, very complicated, but it's on the cherry sheets.
Yep.
Monthly, we get, whatever that estimate is from the state that comes in monthly.
I hope they don't cut our prison mitigation funds because they're closing that part of the prison, but
So I unfortunately know a bit more about that, having been in Norfolk, which now has the largest state prison.
yeah,
What I understand about that is it's not ever guaranteed in the state budget. You have to really advocate for it every year.
subject to
So
appropriation,
for
right?
appropriation, that's
Yeah.
correct. And while Cedar Junction a la Walpole was open, they always got the first 800,000 of whatever was in the budget.
Yep.
And everybody else fought for what was
Crumbs.
left.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say that, but yes.
You can be diplomatic, I'll say.
The scraps.
Yeah,
And, it's a very valid point. I think the unit that they closed is quite small and they still have a significant presence.
right.
But it's not lost on me that we need to make sure we're letting our legislators know that it's very important to us because we still provide some services there and what we get is not what would be taxable if it was. So,
I tried to work with Walter Timothy before he declared his candidacy for clerk of courts, and it was because they cut us. It went from like 300 or something down to 165
Yeah.
or something, and I'm like, can we get some of that money back? And he was gonna work on it, and now he's clerk of court, so work on Bill Driscoll now.
well, both this, Senate and the House side to make sure, because I know in Norfolk, we weren't having any luck with our state rep getting it in, but our senator made it happen. So,
Get them both together,
exactly.
gang up.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
any
I have one
questions?
question
Go
for
ahead.
Ms. Jim. So the highway, do we get to pick the streets? Because I noticed that we partner with BSU to get grants for our roads,
Mhm.
but I've noticed all the roads that get fixed is right around BSU. So
I'll have to talk to Azu. I'm guessing I expect that there's a whole pavement management plan here of the communities. Do we have one?
Yeah, there's a shared streets, grant that I think the college actually applied for
With us.
Right.
with the
Yeah,
town
I've
for
seen that,
200.
yeah.
That is earmarked.
That
over
might be
years.
specifically earmarked, but in terms of generally paving in general, which streets we pick,
Yeah,
there's usually communities have what's called a pavement management plan. And there's a whole assessment done of every street and determine how busy is the street, what is the condition of the street, and what's the best use of a community's dollars to be able to figure out what you just crack seal, what you just mill and grind and overlay, and what you do with what's called full depth reclamation. I'd have to ask the zoo what that is, but they usually look to that to determine how's, you know, with limited money that every community has, how do we do the most work that's gonna last the longest?
Right,
Knowing that, you know, 20, 30 years ago, when you paved a street, the material that they used lasted 20 years. These days, it maybe lasts 10.
yeah,
And
the
so
trucks are a lot
pavement-
heavier on the roads nowadays, but I was just wondering, I mean, it's nice of BSU to give us the money, I was just wondering, can we pick what roads, because I mean, you hear some of the residents, I mean, their roads haven't been touched in about 8 years, so it's just thinking, can we use for the highway money any way we choose? on which
You know,
roads?
130, 55,000 might get us some crack sealing.
Even if it's pothole, right?
But I mean, Lori, how do we actually spend it in each
So
department?
the departments usually spend it on something not in their operations budget
Police,
Okay.
fire, and
and
DPW.
highway.
DPW.
We have, with a consultant, actually reviewed the status of every road in town. And that was done within the last couple of years.
Perfect.
And I know that Mr. Dutton had spoken about the results of that.
Yep.
And,
They just updated it.
you know, I'm sure it still exists in a form
Yeah.
that we could
Yeah.
visit that.
Sure,
Um,
we can get you that.
The unfortunate need is that, of course, there are some feeder roads that are in significantly worse condition, not just with respect to surface and you know, the need for repaving, but with respect to infrastructure, you know, sewer lines, drainage lines.
Exactly. Cross Street comes to mind is one I've been told about, that we could spend $500,000 to just mill and overlay it, and it will look pretty and be
Yep.
nice to drive on. But what's needed underneath far exceeds that, and so we don't want to throw good money after bad and spend it on that only to turn around and have to rip it up.
That's right.
That would be criminal to me.
I think the Cross,
Flag, yeah.
Vernon, and perhaps South, if I recall correctly,
Top five.
all require.
I've heard of the top
significant
5.
rehabilitation.
I haven't seen your report, but you're right on, so Bridgewater's right on top of what you should be doing to make those assessments. The hard part is, you know, for folks who live on a particular street, they're concerned about, you know, their last mile, and they'd like it to be better. And why do we do 2 streets over and not theirs?
Yeah.
We don't pick them based on how many calls we get, we pick them on how we're gonna best spend our money.
And we were lucky to have a counselor that really worked with the state senator to get Broad and over here on 18 portions of them paved that we probably wouldn't have
Sure.
been able to do ourselves. So it's up to us also to lobby our legislative friends to do that. I will allow a question, but technically the protocol is I shouldn't, but I will.
I just wanted to put a plea in for that giant pothole by the Walgreens parking lot, that's all.
Thank you.
Okay,
I would appreciate it if I could get that list also. Of the roads.
yeah, so I'll talk to Azu about the whole
Okay.
plan and get it to everybody.
Yeah,
It's
that would
all,
be
it's, I think it's very interesting and,
Yeah,
Good to know we can explain it to the
yeah,
public.
yeah.
Okay, so did I get a
you have something
motion?
else, Rick?
I think a motion to recommend for approval.
Okay,
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so we have, that's passed, unanimous. I will go back to public comment, 6:33 PM. Any public comment?
None already made.
Okay. There's no one on Zoom. Oh, there is, Deb already told me that. So I would at this point ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned at 6:33 PM. Thank
Very
you all.
efficient.
Yeah.
Budget and finance